I'm going to tell you about Climate Asia, but I'm going to give you a bit of context as to why the BBC is even doing a project like Climate Asia. I'm from a lesser-known part of the BBC called BBC Media Action, formerly the BBC World Service Trust. We're the BBC's international development charity. I won't go into what we do, but I will go into the themes that we've worked on before. We take formats like Question Time and take them to countries like Bangladesh and Nepal, where government and governance is quite fragile. We use things like mobile phones to help health workers reach people more directly on issues like maternal child health. We do youth shows in Cambodia to kind of deal with youth issues affecting young people, and we've even worked around disasters like our Burma Lifeline. But we've never, ever done anything on climate change before. And it's something we've always wanted to do, but I think the BBC is slightly sensitive about climate change because actually responding to it has lots of political implications. Before starting this project, I was kind of interested to see how well known the concept of climate change was in Asia, and I'm going to play you a quick video about some vox pops a young climate champion with the British Council did in Bangladesh about climate change.
জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন এটা তো বিজ্ঞান সাধারণ বিজ্ঞানের প্রশ্ন নাকি হ্যাঁ জাস্ট কি বুঝেন আপনি জাস্ট জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন বলতে আমাদের কি বলবো আমার সেন্সে এখন বলে খাচ্ছে না প্লিজ কেটে দেন
এটা তো জানি দেশের জন্য মানে খুবই একটা
অসময় গরম আবার বেসময় বৃষ্টি বাদল
জলবায়ু তো সুখা জিনিস সবাই টক জিনিস খায় ভালোবাসে এই আর কি বলবো কোন
জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন বলতে আমরা এটাই বুঝি যে জলবায়ুর যে জিনিসপত্র আছে ঠিক আছে ঠিক বলতে পারতেছি
That's Bangladesh, which is one of the countries probably at the forefront of climate change in the future. And the concept of climate change, unsurprisingly, or surprisingly, is not very well known. What the BBC wanted to know is how can we actually support people affected by their climate or climate change through media and communications. What sort of information do they need? What sort of information are they looking for? How can they respond? Should we be doing reality TV programs around urban sustainability? Should we be doing kind of magazine shows where farmers can kind of swap farming techniques? You know, what can we do for farmers? Should we be using community radio on diversifying livelihoods? These are all suggestions we had prior to this project. The project is a partnership between ourselves and the UK's Department for International Development. And to kind of illustrate the complexities of partnership, our brief is to evidence public understanding to enable effective action. What does that mean? That means going out and finding out from the population how they're experiencing the effects of climate to then determine how we can help them to respond. There's three key areas. One is research. We're actually conducting the first ever public benchmark of knowledge and attitudes towards climate change, which can be replicated at any point in the future to show how people's kind of experiences, the impacts and their responses to climate change are evolving over time. And these are national. This project's taking place in 7 countries: Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, China, Indonesia and Vietnam. So it's not a sort of small-scale project. Why are we doing that? We want to understand what are the impacts that are really affecting people. Who are the audiences that they're affecting? How might we segment them? How might we put them in sort of groupings so that we can help them to respond? What are the available responses to them? What can they actually do? How can we make this more of a developmental issue for people? What are their motivations and barriers? So some of the conversations we were having earlier, but looking at that within the Asia region. You know, what is motivating people to respond? What's holding them back? What kind of communications are reaching them already? What are their media consumption habits? What might they consume? Everything we need to both determine programming for the BBC in the future, but also to help people in each country who are already working with audiences actually respond, having a better understanding of the audience of what they need. And then finally, not just to provide this for ourselves, but to create a series of tools, including an interactive data portal that houses everything we find, toolkits for practitioners, regional reports, to get all this information out there. This is just to put in perspective the scale of the operation, but we're doing about 35,000 interviews across a range of different methodologies, both kind of public quantitative baselines, also community assessments with those communities that are most vulnerable. We're also speaking to people like yourselves in countries across the region, and we've had lots of creative communications workshops to look at what the issues are, what's already being done, what we might want to do. So it's very much a kind of participatory program. in a nutshell, this won't be complete for another year, so it'd be great to come back in here and tell you what we found. But what we're really finding is that, possibly a little unlike here, people are actually already experiencing significant impacts of climate variability. They're experiencing less rainfall, increased temperature, really variable and extreme weather. It's about issues like food security, water, energy, and extreme weather events, and it's really impacting on their lives. And they're actually very worried, to the tune of kind of 60% across most of the countries. What we found is that actually speaking about climate change probably isn't the solution. You shouldn't start talking about climate change if you want to help people. But actually revolving around their immediate experiences, around issues like food and water, the way that it's impacting them in terms of livelihood and family future, is the way to begin to start this dialogue. And that people see a role for the media really helping them to do this. And I think in a nutshell, we want to provide a kind of strategy for the next 3 years on how we can start to help support people on the way that climate's impacting them directly, to help them on a longer pathway to understanding the complexities of climate change and response.